Is what we call Make the Click, Bridge the Gap. It's on how to connect with our youngsters, children or teenagers. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah to put some benefit in it for all of us. So how many people here, just show of hands, have children between the ages of 5 and 8? MashaAllah. Okay. And how about 8 and 16? And above 16? Just a handful, mashallah. Right. So, as we know, the age groups are very different. 0 to 7 is one group, 7 to 14, and then 14 to 18 is a different group. And they deal with us in a very different way. So inshallah, today's discussion will mostly be about the ages from 7 to 18. But most of the concepts apply even to the younger children. As a matter of fact, the earlier we apply these concepts, the more beneficial, inshallah, it shall be. So before we get to talk about how to make that connection with a young person, we need to understand who is a young person. What goes on in the minds of these young people. So obviously, there's people who are inexperienced in life. They're still young. They don't have enough exposure to different situations in life. They have never developed enough experience in different aspects of life. They're still learning, they're accumulating knowledge, and they have genuine intentions by fitrah to learn and to be good people and to serve, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we find they're always discovering things. They're inquisitive. And you'll find a young 3-year-old, drawing with the crayons on the wall. And that's not because the child is misbehaving, it's because the child is creative. The child found a color in his or her hand, and they found a nice clean wall in the house, and they want to start to express their ideas or thoughts or whatever it is that's going on in their mind. But then we come as parents, especially the sisters, and we get shocked. What is this? How did he do that? Let me take this from you. And then we get a little upset. Sometimes we discipline them, sometimes we talk back to them, and so forth. But we have to understand that from their perspective, they did not see that they did anything wrong. From their perspective, I'm just expressing my ideas and feelings. So we need to recognize their limitations of recognition and putting things in the proper perspective. The other thing is that they're still growing, meaning they're in a state of instability. They're not like us adults after the age of 22, 26. The scholars and scientists say that after 26, the human brain is pretty much fully developed. This is, the time that we have reasoning. And of course in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the age of 40. When the human being turns 40 now, he recognizes, oh Allah, you've blessed me and my parents. أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي. Help me, Allah, to be grateful to you for the blessings you have given me and my parents. So this is like, the ultimate wisdom, inshallah. But at the age of 26, we can consider this person's brain is complete. But until then, they're still developing. So they're very unstable, especially in the adolescence years, between 12, 13, and 20. And this is a very sensitive age for our young people, brothers and sisters. And it's important to be aware of that and to be sensitive with these kids at this age, because even if there are things we did not do when they were young, certain things we just missed or we didn't fulfill all of the obligations, there's still time, inshallah, to catch up during those years. And those years are really the years that shape the rest of their life, their character, their belief system, and everything that they're going through. So in a general perspective, what we want to base our decisions on is my child progressing or is he standstill? Is his tomorrow better than his today? Or are they the same or is it worse? And not necessarily compare him or her to another youth in the community or the family or to his sibling or cousin, because this is again something we fall into a lot. We find the parents saying, oh, look at your brother, he finished your homework and you're still playing. And that is very dangerous, because now we're comparing the brothers to each other or the siblings to each other, and we start to create animosity between them and jealousy without even recognizing that. That's number one. Number two, we lower their self-esteem. And what we want to really be doing is improve their self-esteem so that they can be more confident and inshallah progress in the direction that we want them to progress in. So again, who is a teenager? Someone who's inexperienced, immature. He's a sponge or she's a sponge, accumulating knowledge and information, inquisitive. You know, a lot of times we'll find our youth very quiet at home. Sometimes they don't talk to us. Like, how was your day? They don't respond. Because also our question is a boring question. It's the same question we ask them every day. How was school? The answer is going to be good, right? So we want to be excited, interesting in our questions. So rather than how was school, what was the new topic you guys learned today in math? Or this, science topic, the geology of the earth that you guys are studying, what do you find interesting in today? And the answer could still be nothing, but at least we're giving them an open-ended question where the answer typically would be more easy than good or nothing. It would be, we did this experiment, we did that, and so forth. So we want to engage with them rather than just asking them questions that are sort of closed-ended questions. There are also people who are aspiring to be something good in their future. And they're looking up to their parents as role models and examples. Especially boys, they look up to their fathers between the ages of 5 and 14 as someone to look up to copy, to imitate. But then at the age of 14, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the fitrah of the human being a rebellious person. And this is an opportunity for those who grew up in households that are non-Muslim to reflect on the creation around them, to think for themselves, who should they worship, what type of lifestyle should they follow. Because if they're living in a household that's non-Muslim, Allah gives them the opportunity to think critically by rebelling against the norm, rebelling against their parents. So even with Muslims, this is normal human being, fitrah creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're going to start to resist some of what their parents are sharing with them. And especially the boys, at this age, they start to compete with their fathers in the house. In other words, they're trying to say, hey, I'm here, I'm also a grown-up man. You're not the only guy here. I can make some decisions in this house, I can make some decisions for myself, for my mother, for my siblings, and so on. And we start to see a little bit of friction between the brothers and their fathers specifically. So there are people who are looking up to a role model, and if this role model is extending a hand and is understanding, they would very well embrace whatever that person brings to them, whether it's a parent or a teacher or an imam or someone in the community. So we need to know our children, and we need to understand at a personal level how each child is different from his or her siblings. So we might have 2 boys in the family, but one is very aggressive and very tough and masculine, and the other one is more kind and soft and more into isolation, an introvert. One is an introvert and the other one is an extrovert. And it's very important that we recognize this, so that when we give them responsibilities, it's compatible with their interests. When we talk to them, we communicate with them and we connect them with them. Again, it's something that we can build a bridge between the parent and the child. Right. So who is a parent? Obviously, a parent is the responsible party. And the children know that. But sometimes as parent, we do not fulfill that picture in their head. So they by default see us as a credible source, a source of authority, a source that is legitimate. But sometimes our actions nullifies that. And that opens the door for them to not take us too seriously. And subhanAllah, we hear a lot from some of the brothers and sisters, young sisters in the community. They say, oh, my dad is a hypocrite. He keeps telling me to pray, but he doesn't get up for Fajr. My mother gets up for Fajr, but he prays after the sun is up. So he's asking me to do something he himself is not doing. Or a brother would say, oh, my dad, he doesn't have a strong character. He's too soft. He just follows whatever other people tell him. I mean, we hear this sometimes from some of the youth. They're 13, 14-year-old. And when you ask him, what do you mean? He's like, well, if someone says we should do this, then he does that. Someone says we should do something else, we do that. So they see the parent in this situation not a responsible parent, not making the decisions and being accountable for these decisions. So it is important that if we position ourselves as parents in some situation, that no matter what, we uphold this position. If we say we're not going out today, then we have to stick to that. We cannot go back and change our decision because, again, they don't take us seriously. The parent is also someone, especially the father, who chooses the mother for that child. He picks the name, he teaches him the deen, he provides for the family. So they see us as experienced people who bring, different aspects from life to them. And they see us as people responsible, just like Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he made dua after he and Ismail alayhi salam built the Kaaba. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. Oh Allah, accept, oh our Lord, accept from us, indeed you are the all-hearing, the all-knowing. رَبَّنَا وَجَعَلْنَا مُسْلِمَيْنَ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً. So this is what we as parents should be striving for. This is the top priority, which is to make dua for them, for this life, and more importantly for the hereafter. And the more we do this in front of them, the more they acquire these values and it becomes part of their character. And subhanAllah, as some of our youth grow up and they do not meet the expectations of their parents, sometimes we see the parents, rather than making dua for them, they make dua against them. And this is so sad. Sometimes we see youth who fell into big serious problems in the deen, and the father says, oh, he's no good. Just the fact that he says that is wrong in itself. Because, the angels could say Ameen, even though it's not a full dua. But I've seen personally parents who would make dua upon their children. They would tell me, if he does not straighten up, then inshallah, Allah will make him miserable. Or Allah will take him even further. I ask Allah to do this, this and that. And then, brother, you should not be doing this. You should make dua for your son that Allah guides him to the straight path. So this is extremely important that we follow the example of Ibrahim alayhi salam when he made dua for his son and all the offspring until the day of judgment. Right. We also talked about in the khutbah, a parent is someone who should have patience for many reasons. For one, we're responsible. For two, it is a trust. It is a fitna, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, a test for us. And number three, we are the more mature, the more experienced, the more reasonable person. And we have the example of Yaqub alayhi salam, وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ. That his children came to him with a shirt that has fake blood. And they said, the wolf ate our brother. He said, no. Something has been being plotted about, you've been plotting something. So beautiful patience. I will resort to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell him about my concerns, and I have beautiful patience in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Yaqub alayhi salam had known that they're plotting something. He knew that they were lying, but he did not tell them in their face, you are lying. He did not kick them out of the house. How can you do this to your brother? You're no longer my children. I separate myself from him. He never did any of this stuff. Today we find fathers who kick out their children because they came late. I know a number of brothers who would tell me, we slept on the stairs because I was supposed to come back home at 11 o'clock, and I came back at 1. So my father did not open the door for me. So what message are we telling the 17-year-old who comes back late and we lock the door in their face? We're telling them we don't care. Just you think you're old enough? All right, sleep in the street. This is obviously not the way of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ would embrace the youth, embrace the children rather than push them further away. So again, patience is the key here. Patience in this situation, we would open up the door, and if the time is not appropriate to discuss why there was a delay, we would keep it for the next morning or some other time. We know the story of the Sahabi who was traveling for a couple of months or some period of time. He came back to his wife, and their son had passed away that same day. She opened up for him, she welcomed him, prepared the meal, he ate, and then they went to sleep and get some rest. And she did not mention that their son passed away and is dead in his room. And then when the morning came, he asked about his son. And she said, she didn't even tell him straight up front, oh, he passed away, you know, the matter's done. She said, what would you do if someone gives you a trust and asks you to return it? You say, of course, I give it back to him. She said, and this is our situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a trust, our son, and he claimed it back. So now is the time to give it back to him. And we know the rest of the story. The brother got upset and he went to the Prophet ﷺ and complained, and the Prophet ﷺ, you know, consoled the couple, and he made dua for them, and Allah blessed them more children. The point of the story is that as parents, we have to pick the right time. If you get the report card and it has that low grade, it is not the time to start an investigation. To start an investigation, what happened? How come you got an E? You should be getting an A or a B. How did that happen? And we start talking about, no, we take the information. Jazakallah khair, my son, inshallah, you work harder and Allah makes it easy for you. We can talk about this at the proper time. So the parent is someone who has patience, and in this patience we manifest the rahmah, the mercy, and the love for our children. Right, so from the Quran, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the children as zina, zinatul hayat al-dunya, the beauty of this life. So it is a responsibility, a trust, but it's also a gift. And we have to see it as such, as a gift. Sometimes we get so exhausted in our daily family affairs and issues and the demands of the children and, you know, our youth, and we start to complain. Oh, this is too much for me. I'm doing everything in the house. And we start to see arguments between the brother and his wife, or the sister and her husband, again forgetting that this is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right, so inshallah we're going to move on, just for the sake of time, and give some tips about communicating with our children, or communicating in general. So a few concepts that we need to remember when we're communicating with someone. The objective is to transfer a message. The objective is that I want to relay some information to this other party, for a number of reasons which we will talk about, inshallah. But in order for this to happen, we have to speak the same language. Something that I see very common in many households is parents using terms that are only understood to them in their native language or their culture, in Arabic or Urdu or whatever language they're speaking, assuming that their 15 or 12 or 8-year-old understands what this term means, even though they might be saying it every day at home. But in many cases, these youngsters, they just let it pass. They don't understand what that means. So there will be cases where, you know, we say a term and they just don't understand it. And then we expect from them something in return. So it's really important that we make sure the children understand what we're saying to them, and that the objective of the discussion is clear. Right, so we have many examples of this, communication between the prophets and their children, or in the Quran. We'll talk about a few of those. We talked about hypocrisy, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in Surah As-Saff, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لِمَ تَقُولُونَ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ كَبُرَ مَقْتًا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَن تَقُولُوا مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. O you who believe, why do you say things that you don't do? The most despicable thing in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to say something and not follow up on it. And again, as parents, and myself, I'm guilty of this in some occasions, we make promises that we don't fulfill. All right, if you get a good grade, I'll take you out. And then this child gets the good grade and we don't take them out. Or if you don't finish your homework, you're not going to play soccer with your friends. But then they don't finish their homework and we happen to go to the masjid and we let them play the soccer. So no, we have to be, you know, up to the responsibility of whatever we say, whether it's something positive or negative. Right, so the first tactic or skill we want to touch on is active listening. We know that the Prophet ﷺ, from the different ahadith that described how he would communicate with people, first of all, he would give them a handshake, the brothers of course, and he would not let go of his hand until the other party lets go first. no matter how long, this takes. And he would always be facing the person he's talking to. So he would never talk to someone, looking sideways or from behind or, not paying full attention. And again, this is something for us as parents to pay attention to. Many of us, our children come to us while we're working on something. A mother might be in the kitchen preparing a meal or something, and she's busy not paying attention to her daughter or son as he or she is talking to them. And then we wonder why when we ask them how school was, they just say good. Because we were not paying attention 2 hours ago when they came to talk to us. Now, of course, that does not mean every time they come talk to us, we have to, be completely 100% available. We might be busy with some, time-demanding issues. But then at that point, we have to explain. We have to set the expectations. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the Quran sets the expectations. He says, if we do this, this is the reward. If we don't do that, this is the punishment. And so on and so forth. So the same concept with our children, we set the expectation. And we do it with love and humility. So rather than, hey, wait now, I'm busy. Oh, sweetie, I know you want to tell me something very exciting to you, and I really want to listen to it. So give me 5 minutes so I'm ready, so I can give you my full attention. And at that point, our youngster will appreciate this response. They would recognize that we sincerely want to listen to what they're trying to tell us. And then, inshallah, that builds a bridge again between the parent and the child. So the first step in active listening is to receive the information and make sure we understand it. And then we remember it and we tell it back to the person. So they're coming from school. Hey Baba, there's a trip at school. I need you to sign this piece of paper and give me a check. So we listen. Oh, there's a trip. That must be really exciting. Where are you guys going? So now we're repeating the information back to them. We're giving them acknowledgement that we heard that there's a trip. And not only that, we're interested to know in where you're going. And they say, oh, we're going to this town or this place or the zoo or whatever. Oh, okay, and what is that? And we start asking more questions. And then we finish up that paperwork. So we respond to them. And then there could be reflective listening. So we listen to something and we reflect on it. Oh, so you guys are going to the zoo. Well, I remember when I used to be a child and go to the zoo, that was so exciting, and I used to love this type of animal and do this and do that. So now we're creating a story for them. And our children love to hear our stories. They love to know what did we do when we were young, and what did we look like, and how did we react. I mean, if you truly want to engage in a discussion with your children, you share with them your childhood and your teenage years. And you give them the positive experiences that you went through. And then the highest level of listening is what we call the empathetic listening, where you are now in the spot, the position of this child. And you're feeling what they're going through. You're exhibiting emotional intelligence, and you're displaying that back to them. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, when he was approached by a man asking for permission to commit zina, he illustrated to this young man that he understands how it feels to be a young person. He started asking questions, like we were saying earlier. So he received the information, he understood it, he asked the man questions, would you like this for your mother, your sister, and so on. So now the man is clearly aware that the Prophet ﷺ understands what he's going through, and then he related to him, an example. He said people also don't like that. And stories go on, many other examples. Now, when we're communicating with our youth, sometimes they don't tell us what's going on. As a matter of fact, most of the time that's the situation. And this is where the patience comes in, where we have to be able to do a little bit of tarbiyah and to listen to subtle messages. So when our kid comes from school and he slams the door and he throws his bag, that doesn't mean he's upset with us. It just means something is not working for him or her. And we need to find out what that is. Just like Ibrahim a.s. consulted with Ismail to find out what's going on in his, how is he going to react to this? What's his emotions going to be like? So if our children say, I don't want to go to the masjid, let's go because there's a community dinner. No, I don't want to go. Why? Because. What do you mean because? We're all going. You can't stay home by yourself. Well, I don't want to go. I don't have friends there. And this is very typical, you know, they're 13, 14, 15. They're typically not going to come to a community dinner. Unless there are other people their age, we're going to play basketball or do something together. But if it's just a community dinner, they most probably would not want to come. But there is a subtle message. It's not just about that they don't want to come. There's no, you know, animosity between them and the masjid. But there's a reason. And we as smart parents need to find out. It might be that someone bothered them at the masjid at some point. Or it might be that their friends are not here. So they're fearful of being bored. You know, they would rather come if someone can assure them, no, you're not going to be bored. It's still going to be fun. So we need to look for these subtle messages and signs to find out what really is going on in their heads. So that's the first skill, which is active listening. And the Prophet ﷺ, we have the example of Aisha radiallahu anha, when she followed the Prophet ﷺ one night. He was sleeping in her house, and he got a command from Jibreel ﷺ to go to al-Baqi', to the cemetery, to make dua for the deceased. So he went out very softly without trying to disturb her, and went to al-Baqi'. And Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha was awake, and she felt that the Prophet ﷺ left. So she got a little concerned. She wanted to see where is he going, and make sure he's not going to one of his other wives. So she followed him. She put on her thawb and went very softly behind him. And he noticed someone is following him, but he could not see who that is. It was very dark. And he went to the cemetery, made the dua. She witnessed that, and he was turning back towards his home. So she raced quickly and went to home before him and got back into the bed, and, you know, as if nothing happened. The Prophet ﷺ came, and he noticed her heart was pounding and she was breathing heavily. So he said, Ya Aisha, what's the matter? She said, nothing. He said, what do you mean nothing? Something is going on, what is it? She said, nothing. So he told her, are you going to tell me? Or is the Lord of Muhammad going to tell me? So she told him, you know, the situation and so forth. But here's an example, again, of the Prophet ﷺ communicating with his wife and trying to figure out, of course, you know, he understands the mindset of his wife and so on, and he understands that it is, you know, just the nature of the woman. And he asked her, do you think the Prophet of Allah would do something that is not, you know, in accordance to the Sharia of Allah? And, you know, she said, no, of course not. So the point is, even though he trusted his wife and she trusted him, it is just the human nature, but he was able to diffuse the situation in a very kind and gentle and, you know, simple way. Right, so this is active listening. In active listening, our goal is to transform the discussion from a one-way discussion into a transformational discussion, where both parties are talking and talking freely and sharing each other's ideas and trusting each other with that discussion. Unfortunately, many of our youngsters don't have that feeling of trust. That if I tell too much to my parents, it's going to come back with headache. They're not going to let me do this, or I won't be able to go out, or talk to my friend, and so on and so forth. Right. We talked about active listening. The second thing to talk about are techniques to ask for something. So let's take the example of you want to come to the masjid and you want to bring your son or daughter with you for the community dinner, and they refuse it. So the same process that Ibrahim ﷺ followed with Ismail is to consult with him. So rather than go tell them, tonight inshallah we're going to the masjid at this time, you go to them with a question. What do you think about going to the masjid today? Even though you have already made your mind that you're going to the masjid inshallah with your family, and obviously you want everyone with you. But you go and, what do you think, Ahmed, about going to the masjid today? And if you do it in a kind way where you show genuine interest in understanding their response, they would give you a response. They say, nah, I don't think so. How come? Why? Because I'm just too tired, I had a long week. But that's a good opportunity to go relax. You can sit by the wall at the end, you know, with the old people and just stretch your legs. and just, enjoy yourself. And it's like, I don't know, it gets so boring. There's no one my age. It's like, oh, let's talk to Muhammad and see if his dad is going. Then maybe both of you can meet there. Right? So again, another example is, let's say one of the siblings needs help with something at the home. Rather than go tell the child or the teenager, go help your sister with this thing, fix her bike for her. Your sister needs some help. Can you help her? Because I'm too busy. And we use this all the time, especially with youth who are very rebellious. SubhanAllah, I work with a lot of youth, and some of them, I'd be amazed how they have been patient with me. Someone with gray hair, in his upper 40s, who's so boring for a 15-year-old, but yet they would spend the whole day with me. And I'd drop them home at 7 o'clock at night, and I'd be amazed, SubhanAllah, how did this guy withstand me for 10 hours? It didn't make any sense. But because we were able to make him engaged in the process. And he would be doing some volunteer work that's very boring for his age or for his circumstances. But again, because he found someone who's genuinely interested in what he's able to bring. So we tell him, the community needs your help, and you're the most active youth in this particular area. All the other kids like to do different types of things, but you're the only one we can depend on. And we have this big thing and we really need your help. And SubhanAllah, you'll find this kid who's rebellious and at home slamming the doors and he's not been doing anything the whole day. He says, oh, okay, I'll come. When do you want me? Just a couple of days ago, we had a talk at a university of Maryland, and we just wanted one 15-year-old to come and just come out and be part of the discussion so he can learn some stuff. So we called him and said, we'll pick you up from your home this time, this day, 5 o'clock. And teenagers forget, and this is something very important we also remember. If you tell your son or daughter something, don't assume they're going to remember it more than 5-10 minutes. That's just the way it is. So you have to constantly remind them. So we call him, half an hour before the time we're going to pick him up. Are you ready? He's like, ready for what? Are you coming to the university? Oh yeah, of course I'm coming. Okay, you got to be ready. We're going to be there in 10 minutes. He's like, okay, can you make it 20? Because I just need to, put on something and look good. And should I wear a tie or what should I wear? No, just come the way you are. That's fine. Just wear decent clothes. And we go, and he's like, don't leave without me. Don't leave without me. So what makes this 15-year-old who's giving his parents so much difficulty to the point his father says, I've given up on him. I don't know what to do with him anymore. You guys figure out a way. What makes this person so excited and interested to come to a talk that is for college-age people, for 21-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and he's still 15? It is that he felt respected. He felt respected. He felt that there's someone out there who values him. That there's someone who understands him. That someone who understands the challenges of his school and his homework and so on and so forth. And this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam did with Ismail radiallahu anhu. Is that he communicated to his son how he feels about this. This is a serious, grave matter, Ismail, to take your life. It is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes. And I have to fulfill the command whether you like it or not. But because it's such a grave thing, and I feel for you, I want to consult with you. And he did it in a way where he understands his son, understanding his son is not going to push back. Different than Nuh alayhi salam with his son. He said, Ya bunay irkab ma'na, come. There's no time to waste. This is the time the flood is happening. You have to jump on the boat with us. And he said, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to the mountain. So that's the first technique, which is active listening and asking questions. Because questions, and in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses questions all the time because that gives the speaker more authority and power. So if you want to have more authority and negotiation power over your children, you ask them questions. You don't give them commands. Ask them questions. So Allah in the Quran says, "Ilahu ma'allah." Is there a Lord with Allah? We see it throughout. Questions, question after another. Especially when it comes to matters of aqidah. Because that's a way to get the mind to critically think and to ponder about it. The third technique is the I message. To use the I message. Oh my son, my back hurts me, I can't clean the driveway. Can you come help me? Oh, my son or my daughter, it's too late and I can't see well enough. Can you read this for me? Can you do that? Oh, my son, I work so hard so you can, go to school. Can you study so that I feel I'm doing something good for you? And we see this again in the Quran when Zakaria alayhi salam made a dua. قال رب إني وهن العظم مني. Oh, my Lord. And this is in our dua. We always show Allah and ask Allah our weaknesses. إني وهن العظم مني. Oh Allah, I'm so feeble and weak and my bones are hurting and breaking. واشتعل الرأس شيبا. And my hair has turned gray. ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا. And I have never stopped making dua to you, Allah. I'm the weak, I'm the feeble, I'm the one in need. So the I message. The I message, when we're communicating with other humans, puts the burden on us. So rather than telling them you need to finish your homework, you say, I would feel so happy if you finish your homework. I would feel so proud of you when you get an A. Rather than saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. Put it back on you. I feel disappointed that you talked to your mother this way yesterday. Rather than, you should not talk to your mother like this. This is haram. This is not this is not that. No, we again show, because by default, our children want to make us pleased, because that makes them feel better. The teenager always is seeking approval of his or her parents. Like, inshallah, if there are questions, we can pass cards as well, because I would like to take questions during the discussion to make it interactive. So I don't know where the cards are. We had some cards and pens. No, they're not in that box. There's a small box that Brother Tahsin had, inshallah. Like, another thing we need to do when we're communicating with our youth is to give them a background about what we're about to say. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, another example, when he communicated with his father. He did not just go and say, oh my father, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, he first started with an introduction. And again, a question. Because again, the question gives authority. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِي, my dear father, لِمَ تَعْبُدُ مَا لَا يَسْمَعُ وَلَا يُبْصِرُ. My dear father, why do you worship what doesn't hear or see? So he's not criticizing him. He's not telling him yet that this is right or wrong. He's just giving background. He's asking a question. And he's saying, this thing doesn't hear or see, so what's the reason behind it? وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا. And it's not going to help you with anything. And now he continues that introduction. يَا أَبَتِي إِنِّي قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ. He's giving a fact. No criticism yet. No instructions yet. Oh, my dear father, I've received some knowledge. مَا لَمْ يَأْتِكَ. You didn't receive it. فَاتَّبِعْنِي. So now, follow me. أَهْدِكَ صِرَاطًا سَوِيًّا. I will guide you to the straight path. So we see the sequence of events. First, it starts with an introduction, breaking the ice, as we say, and a question, to be inquisitive, because as we ask questions, we're forcing the other party to connect with us. And it's probably going to be, here in this question, he can't say yes or no. He's going to have to explain why is he worshiping this idol that doesn't hear or see or benefit. Ya abati, la ta'budu shaytan. Now he's giving him an instruction. Do not worship shaitan. And a reason. Inna shaytan kana lirrahmani asiyya. Shaitan has been disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya abati. Now, the I message. Inni akhaf. I am worried. I'm worried about you, my dear father. An yamassaka adhab, that you'll be touched by torture. So we see here the different techniques that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to us with Ibrahim alayhi salam communicating with his father. First, breaking the ice, the question mark, giving the facts, asking the question, and then giving an instruction, and then using the I message at the end. Oh, my dear father, it's about me. I'm worried about you. You say I'm worried about you to your child, they will start to listen, especially if the mothers say this. Whether they're boys or girls, they cannot withstand, especially the boys, they cannot withstand to see their mother upset. Their father, they don't care. He can be upset as much as he wants. But when it comes to their mother, they would not sleep at night if they just know that their mother is upset. If I want to connect with a young person who's completely rebellious at home and not listening to a single thing, I just take him on the side and say, you know what, yo, your mom is really concerned. And he would look to me like this and like, why? I was like, I don't know, but her heart is broken. And he was like, what should I do? I was like, work something out with them. They cannot withstand to see their mothers in a state other than being happy. So these are some of the techniques. Now, what about giving constructive feedback, criticism? So we need to use what we call the sandwich, or the tortilla, rather, not the sandwich, but the tortilla technique. So you give some positive feedback with the negative feedback, and then you close with another positive feedback. So your son is getting, or your daughter is getting this report card from school, and it's all low grades. Brother, what is this? How come you're not studying? Are you playing all day long? It's because of these video games. I said you should not get video games. I'm going to take this thing and put it away. And subhanAllah, we see fathers sometimes who take the video game and they just throw it and smash it on the floor. I've seen it myself. And the boy would call me crying, 14-year-old or 13, my dad smashed the machine. And that is a huge, huge mistake. Or fathers who would let their kids go to school and they come back home, they don't find the TV, or they don't find the laptop or the game machine or whatever it is. And that's another huge mistake, because you're breaking the trust. If your son or daughter cannot feel safe in their own home, where they know whatever belongings they have, they're going to come back and find it, where do we expect them to feel safe? And that's when they start to look for the crooked ways, for the girlfriend or someone else to care for them, where they feel safe and trusted. So if we want to build a relationship, we have to take these things away from them in, again, a humble, simple way. So rather than criticizing the grade, well, I know you worked so hard this semester or this term or this school year, and I see, even if they're not studying, and we see that they're playing, but it is okay sometimes to twist facts with your kids as part of their tarbiyah. I know you're working hard, but it seems that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has different plans, which is okay. We're going to accept the will of Allah, but we're also going to take the means and do the best we can. So what do you think I can do to help you lift your grades? And the response automatically would be, I don't know, maybe you can help me with my math a little bit. Rather than, no, I don't want anything from you, I'll do it on my own. And then we close again with a good praise. MashaAllah, that's a great first step. My son, I'm always here for you. So we again reinforce that message. So this is what we call the tortilla. Very small positive feedback, a little bit of the negative, and then another positive feedback to give constructive criticism. And of course the time needs to be right. They need to be comfortable. Don't go talk to your daughter about her grades when it's 10:30 and she's falling asleep. I mean, she can't even hear what you're saying. Like, you can stop here, inshallah. Any questions so far? So we covered the active listening, the I message, the questions. Yes, brother? I'm going to need the young brother in the black shirt to repeat, inshallah, when you're done. It's hard to hear you.
Very good information, and alhamdulillah, we're here. What I'm trying to say, actually, is back home, I'm from Bangladesh. Back home we have a notion that the parents have to ready with the sticks. You have to have sticks, discipline your kids. And not only that, you have to discipline our mother the first night. That's the notion going on back home, actually. And we raised up with that. And a lot of times people say, as you grow up, that means the technique they use was successful. What you are talking about now seems like complete opposite.
Right. Now, so Jazakallah khairan, good question. Of course, we all come from different cultures, different backgrounds, but our standard and basis is the Quran and the Hadith, the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So we need to look back and see how did the Prophet ﷺ discipline the Sahaba. One of the young Sahaba came to him, he was probably 14 or 15 at the time, and he went to a battle. And he was so proud that he went to the battle and fought alongside with the Muslims, and he killed a disbeliever. And he went back to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, as this man, I chased him. And as I brought the sword almost down on him, he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And then I cut his neck. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Wayhak, what did you do? You killed a man who took the shahada. He said, oh, he was just faking. He wasn't truly a believer, and he wanted to kill us. And he was after you. And just because I cornered him, now he did the shahada. He said, did you get into his heart? Did you get into his heart? I can't remember, I don't want to say the name, but the sheikh is in the back, I think, was it Mu'adh ibn Jabal? No, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Usama ibn Zayd. No, barakallahu feek. One of the young Sahaba. So, similarly, we just need to follow the practice of the Prophet ﷺ. It's never narrated in any hadith that the Prophet ﷺ hit anyone with a stick or even with his own hand. Right? So, these are cultural things that we bring with us, or even from, if we're raised in this country, there's also cultural things that are not correct. And we need to recognize that and stay away from it. Speaking about cultural issues, the Prophet ﷺ would always show compassion to his wives in the family. Aisha radiallahu anha narrated many ahadith about the Prophet ﷺ and how he used to bathe with her, and how they used to play with each other while they're bathing with each other. How he would play with her at home. How he would make jokes with her. When she took the dish and threw it, when all the Sahaba were in his house eating, and one of his other wives, Safiya radiallahu anha, brought a dish. She took the dish and she threw it because she was jealous. How could one of his other wives bring a dish in my own home? What did he do? Did he tell Aisha radiallahu anha, what is this in front of my guests, you do this? And these are the kibar of the ummah. Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman. I mean, we're talking about, not just, friends, but these are friends and leaders in the ummah. He said, gharat ummah. He laughed and smiled and he said, oh, your mother is jealous. And he started to pick up the broken plate and the food. And then after the guests left and everyone went home, he didn't even, criticize Aisha radiallahu anha. All he did is say, prepare a dish so I can give it back to her. That's all. He didn't even say, why did you do this? Although they were in private, she did not narrate that to us. She said, he asked me to do a dish and give it to his wife. So this is the level of compassion and patience we have to have, especially with our children. We can never have anything other than compassion and affection for our children. Some parents, subhanAllah, they have grudges. It's like, I don't want to deal with him. I personally know brothers in different communities who would not talk to their sons for weeks and weeks in the same home. There was one brother, he went overseas for Umrah, and we said, this is a great opportunity. And we sat down with him, with his wife and 4 boys, while he was away. And we said, when your father comes back, whatever he tells you guys to do, just agree to it. Whatever he tells you to do, just agree to it. And we want you guys to suggest to him that he takes all 5 of you on a trip. All 6 of you go to some trip. And the 4 boys, some of them are in high school and some are in middle school, they all agreed. Of course, initially there was resistance. No, he never talks to me. Whenever he sees me, he's grumpy in my face. I can't talk to him, because if I talk to him, he's going to yell at me and I'm going to talk back. So I just don't talk to him. But they all, alhamdulillah, agreed. And the brother came. And before he went home, we made an arrangement to see him at some event at the masjid. And we said, brother, you need to take your family someplace for 1 or 2 nights. The 5, 6 of you, just to create some bonds. And he went to Umrah, and he did not take his older 2 boys because they resisted. So a month before the Umrah, he said, we're going for Umrah. They said, no, we don't want to come. And then, you know, teenagers, they don't know what Umrah is. One boy said, that's so inappropriate. I said, what is so inappropriate? People wear a towel around themselves and they walk like this in the street? That's so inappropriate. How can I walk like this without underwear? I was like, brother, don't worry. You'll put a pin and nothing will happen. Nothing will fall down. He's like, no. I mean, I don't know why we do this. So imagine this is the mindset of this 13-year-old. And his father is a great brother. He's very, alhamdulillah, practicing his deen. And he wants to do the right thing. He wants to take his 2 older brothers, sons, to Umrah. But what he's missing, and this is what I meant earlier, he does not recognize, they don't understand the significance of ihram. He assumes that they understand it because he grew up in a Muslim culture and he's a devout Muslim, alhamdulillah, and he understands his deen in and out. But he does not recognize that this 13 and 15-year-old, even though they are in the same household, have no understanding whatsoever of the concept of ihram. We're not talking about Umrah, we're just talking about ihram. They have no concept. Not just that, he did not prep them. He should have gone and said, what do you guys think that we go for a couple of weeks and visit Mecca and Medina? And you know, there's some really big differences. They wear things differently, and this is what we're going to do, and it's a good experience. He did not do that. And subhanAllah, one of his sons, the day before, a week before he went for Umrah, he went to get his shots. So he told his sons, again, the wrong timing. Just coming back from school, they're tired, they have homework, let's go get our shots. So the older boy said, no, I'm busy, I have homework, and the other one said, I'm tired. So he said, okay, and he went out and got his own shots. So a day or 2 later, I saw one of those boys and he said, you know, I might go to Umrah. I said, really? He said, yeah, my dad is taking us to Umrah. I said, mashallah, that's good. So the boy has the interest, the intention, and the willingness to go for the Umrah, but he never connected with his father. So I call his father in the evening and I say, mashallah, your younger son seems excited about going to Umrah. I said, no, he's not coming anymore. I was like, what do you mean? It's like, I already got my shots and I'm not taking them. I was like, no, take them. Nah, they don't want to come. When they grow older, maybe they can come, but they don't want to come. I was like, you really need to take him. If he wants to come, you should take him. So this goes back to understanding our children. Many times we feel that we understand them, but we really don't understand them. But there are a few questions here. If a parent is really soft forward their children, how are they supposed to learn discipline? Absolutely. So there's a difference between punishment and torture and discipline. Discipline requires assertiveness. What we mentioned earlier is to be up to your word. If you say we're leaving the masjid 8 o'clock, then it is 8 o'clock. If you say we're going to pray Isha in 10 minutes, we'll be in the car, then you have to be in the car in 10 minutes. Because you're setting the example. You cannot stand in the hallway, talk to the brothers, and then this sister comes up to your wife and she talks to her and okay, we'll see you, and it takes 20 minutes and your kids are waiting outside for you. That is not discipline. So you do not need a stick. You do not need to punish. You do not need to raise your voice. As a matter of fact, research has shown the more we raise our voices, the less credibility we have and the less leverage we have with the young people. They're not going to take us seriously. It just comes in from one ear, goes out from the other ear. And the more stress it puts on these people. So yes, you can teach them discipline without yelling or shouting, but we're not saying to be unorganized. So discipline means organization. We have certain times to sleep and wake up. You know, we all get up before Fajr so we can pray. We all sleep after Isha by an hour or 2. That's discipline. Meaning we're organized, we have a system that we follow. We go to the masjid, there's no such thing as you guys roam around. No. You're either in a program at the masjid or sitting next to me or with your friends in the gym. But to roam around, that's lack of discipline. So this is how we build it, and of course the younger, the better. My kids are asking, why do we have to learn Arabic? What is the best answer? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the answer in the Quran, we have revealed it Quran in Arabic so that it is easy to understand. Because this is the language of Jannah, people of Jannah. It's the language of the Quran. And because Arabic is a very unique language, it has richness in it. It has rhetoric, it has grammar, it has a lot of things in it. For example, the word huwa. We cannot translate huwa to he in English. In English, he and she is for male, female. But in Arabic, huwa can identify a gender for like human beings, or masculine for anything else. Like a book or a tree is a feminine. But a tree is not a female. But the Arabic language, if it's not by default masculine, it becomes a special case which is a feminine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to himself in the Quran, huwa. That does not mean he's a male. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not like us, not a gender. But it is a form which is the default form. So without understanding the Arabic language and something like this, we're gonna be questioning like, what is huwa? Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to himself, nahnu nazzalna dhikr. We have revealed the dhikr. Again, without understanding the significance of honor and dignity in the Arabic language, and this is a way of honoring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by using the plural, the person would not understand. So the best way to explain this to the youth is that for us to understand the Arabic. This is the language also of the people of Jannah. How can I combine respect and confidence when I'm interacting with adults? I get confused between them. I'm 27 years old. Right, so inshallah, to gain respect, we have to show respect. People feel disrespected or become angry when they feel disrespected. And how can we show respect to someone? By recognizing what they're telling us, by acknowledging it. You don't have to agree with it, but you just have to acknowledge it. So we come from different backgrounds, different ages, different ideas, and so forth. We don't necessarily have to agree on every single thing, but we have to acknowledge that we heard the person talking to us. So if we can acknowledge that you communicated a message to me, maybe an older brother has a certain way of doing things, don't do this. Jazakallah khair, brother, thank you for explaining this to me, but just out of curiosity, what's the reason behind it? And he might explain, and if he doesn't, khair, that's okay as well. I'm not quite sure what the question means by getting confused, but we can touch on it afterwards, inshallah. Why do we wear the hats? What are they meant for? I'm assuming this question is for the brothers. Hats like kufis and so forth. This is again a custom. There's nothing in the deen that says we have to wear kufis or hats. It's just, for me personally, it's just to cover up my bald head. That's all. There's no other significance. And maybe in the summer to protect it from the sun. How should we ask our son about his situation if he's angry? This is a good question. So again, pick the right time. So if you recognize that your son is angry, let him cool down. It could take hours or days, that's fine. With teenagers and adolescents, they're very moody. For 2-3 days in a row, they might be very happy and relaxed and stress-free and enjoying the life and everything. And for 3-4 days in a row, they might be very upset and grumpy, and they don't want to talk to anyone. They don't want to, and this is again normal behavior. They're growing up, their hormones are changing the way they deal with things and so forth. So pick the right time and pick the right person. For certain times, it might be better for the mother. For other times, it may be better for the father. So it depends on what's going on in their life, what the situation is. Again, as parents, we need to understand our children. When we deal with some youth, when we coach some of the youth, we tell the father, you step aside. For the next week, you're not even in the picture. I would say, let everything, the mother deal with it. And sometimes vice versa. You say, you need to take a rest. You're so stressed out, sister, just forget that you even have a son. Assume that you're on vacation and the people around you in the house just don't exist. They're virtual. And just live your life as if they don't exist. And that does help the children, helps the husband and the rest of the family. Now, then you use the different techniques. My dear son, I'm a little concerned about you. You seem a bit angry or upset lately. Why is that? Is something bothering you? Is something confusing you? I knew one brother, he said, I'm not going overseas this year to my home country. I don't want to go. And his family couldn't figure out why. And I said, why? And he said, because my uncle passed away last year. And I'll be upset when I go there and not find him. But they just never were able to figure that out. It's not that he's rebellious, or he doesn't like them, or he wants to make their life difficult or spoil their vacation plans. No, it's just that he's so upset that he lost his uncle, a very close uncle to him, and he's worried that he's going to go there, he's not going to see him, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. And this is, again, the responsibility of the parents. When this uncle passed away a year ago, they should have sat down with their children and explained that this is part of hayat, this is part of life and sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we will be tested, and this is a calamity. And the best thing you can do for your uncle is to be a good Muslim and make dua for him, so that you carry on his legacy and ask Allah for forgiveness and so on. And if they constantly talk about his uncle in a positive way, now he knows how to deal with the situation. Most of our youth get into trouble because they don't know what to do. It's like, I don't know what to do. This girl came, talked to me, and I just don't know what to do. And I didn't want to look like a weird person at school, so I talked back to her. And then she asked me for my number, so I gave it to her. And they're genuinely sincere. At least the first few experiences. And then things, go pretty deep and they get into trouble. Like, my son is 17 and he thinks he can watch TV and be on his phone whenever he wants any advice. Of course, this is a big problem, and it goes back to the workshop, inshallah, we're going to have on Sunday. But why does he have a phone? Well, he's 17, so he should probably have a phone. But when did he get his phone? Did he get it when he was 15, or 8, or 10, or 12? I know kids who have phones and they're 8 years old. And of course, that's a big no-no. The disbelievers themselves, Facebook itself tells you if you're under 13, you should not have an account with us. So how can we be parents and let an 8-year-old have an Instagram and a Facebook and a Snapchat and this and that? Of course, we're asking for trouble. But before they reach this age, we need to be at the forefront and teach them about this stuff. So our child is 7 or 8, we tell them, you know what? There's what we call a smartphone, and it has access to the internet, and the internet has good and bad. Let me show you some of the good, like this website for Quran and this and stuff. And there's bad stuff, and you need to be careful. You're not going to show him what the bad stuff is, but you're going to alert him that you unintentionally, just a general statistic across the board, by the age of 8, children have been exposed to pornography on the internet unintentionally. Any 8-year-old who has access to the internet has been exposed at least once to pornography unintentionally, meaning they went to a website for some homework or schoolwork, or they're checking their favorite soccer team or basketball team, whatever it is, and something pops up on the side. It could be a news article, they click on it, and it takes them 2 clicks away to a pornography website. By the age of 8, anyone who's been on the internet unsupervised, at least once has been exposed. We've seen in the Muslim community kids as young as 10 who are watching pornography on a consistent basis. So the question back is, when we give them these devices, whether it's a television or a cell phone or whatever it is, or a video game console or controller, we have to educate them. That means we need to be educated. And this is where the struggle comes. You cannot just give your child a phone and say good luck. You yourself as a parent have to know how to use it, what applications are on it, what are the opportunities that it could present to the youth, and also what are the risks. So now that we're after the fact, the brother is 17, and let's assume for the time being, he had this phone since he was 14, which is probably, a reasonable age given that he's in high school. What do we do about it? So again, we follow the advice of Ibrahim alayhi salam, or the model. We start to ask them questions. Oh my dear son, why do you use the phone too much and it could waste your time? Ask a question. They say, oh, it doesn't waste my time. Okay, how's that? Ask another question. Well, because I do my homework. Okay, but can't you get better grades at school? So maybe it has an influence. Maybe we put it away for some hours, right? So depending on the severity of the situation, there's no one answer fits everyone. I know one brother who's 17, he's a video game addict. Literally. I mean, he could sit in front of a video game for 20 hours straight, not moving. He would skip school to play video games. I mean, he has some special circumstances, but still, it is a problem. We can't just come and take the video game console and put it in a closet and lock it up, because we might cause bigger problems. He might take his life. He might walk out of the deen. He might leave the family. So this is a case we cannot do that. But if it's a moderate case, where someone is using his games every night for an hour, and he's a sound young brother, he's struggling at school, as a parent, I could go and take it and say, we're going to take it from you for a period of time. But again, you set the expectations. You don't just walk into the room and say, we're taking your game console today, or right now. No, you say, next week, if your grades are the same, we think, or we would like to ask you if it is possible to take the console from you. So you're giving him or her a week's advance notice. And you remind them every single day of the week that this is coming, this is coming. And if that happens at that day, there's no improvement, then, all right, son, I think we need to pack it up. You pack it up yourself and put it in my room or whatever. So that's the way we can do it, inshallah, to coach these young people. How do you deal with favoritism, parents holding grudges even when you apologized, and gender inequality due to culture? So again, cultural issues are always a problem. We cannot favor one sibling or one child over the other. The Prophet ﷺ's way of life is he would equate across all of his children. He would love them all the same. If you kiss one child, you have to kiss the rest. If you hug one, you have to hug the rest. If you give allowance to one, you have to give allowance to the rest. Unless we're dealing with a circumstance which requires a little bit of customization. You have 4 boys or 4 girls, and one of them has a certain problem, and I can't give him or her an allowance, for whatever reason. Then I would give them still the allowance in a different way. Maybe I put it for them in a bank account, or I put it in an envelope and I say, here, I saved $100 for you over the past 3 months. But I cannot say I'm not giving them allowance because they waste their money, and I'll give it to their siblings. And this is another problem we see. We find parents bringing phones to 2 of the brothers and not to the other 2. And that, of course, creates problems. The best thing is, again, remind the parents about the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. As college students who are not yet parents, do you think there are ways we can live our daily life or relate with people in a way that we can incorporate these teachings when the time comes? Absolutely. So you can definitely give da'wah to your college classmates, Muslim classmates, using these same techniques. You would have brothers and sisters on campus. Maybe the sister's not wearing hijab, right? So you can go, the sister can approach her in a humble way. Sister, this is what the deen tells us, and you're such a great sister, you're very hardworking, you volunteer at the MSA, but there's this little thing that if you do, then inshallah all your deeds will be pure and good. And why don't you come with me and 2 other sisters, and we're going shopping, and maybe, you can give us some ideas about headscarves. So, one step at a time, you coach the sister and again, bring her interest. But you can apply these concepts to any type of relationship. طيب, so inshallah, I think we're about to, is a question? No. So inshallah, we will stop here. If there are any other questions, inshallah, maybe tomorrow or later we can address them, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. جزاكم الله خيرا.
حاج الجواد عن المدرسة وحنا الجوبة نمرة